Hello there everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of my tutorial series for Songs of SYX. Today, the big topic is going to be research. In the last episode, we have covered the basic services. We now have a well for people to wash themselves in, a hearth to stay warm during the winter, a eatery to eat like an actual human being or Crotonian being, and we also have amped up our food production by getting ourselves a big bad and Teledon pasture. So also the city has stocked up with a new workshop. It's now a carpenter because we needed that furniture to get our laboratory going. Of course, we have at the end of the day imported the furniture instead of made it ourselves, but for the sake of explanation, I think we're doing a great job here so far. So, the lab's being finished almost, and I see that my wood stockpile is degrading a little bit, so let's fell some trees manually. When you are living in an area like you have it here, you can basically sustain your wood income manually for the first couple of years, easily. Whenever your wood goes low, just cut some more trees. Later, we're going to use the woodcutter, because the woodcutter's basically a workshop which you can put over a forest. And they don't destroy the trees like we do here, but by all means right now this ain't a problem at all for two reasons. First off, when there's trees growing somewhere, they will always regrow until you build something on top of them. And the other thing is we certainly want that area here cleared, because that's where we're building up our city. So it's all fine. Now the lab is finished and we are at minus 48 workers because our automatic deployment loves to use everything from our workshops right from the get-go. So let's change that. We're going to invest nevertheless quite a lot of workforce on that. I'll put up 6 scientists. So these dudes will now go day by day in there and do science. What that does for us is quite simple. We'll generate points up here on that icon, technology. It'll take a couple of days, and as you see there, homelessness is occurring, so let's do something about that. A really good comment brought up in the last episode that Crotonians are a little bit special when it comes down to their housing. So we went into this tab here already. Right-clicking the icon of your species opens it up. And when we get on over to the Access tab, this is everything your people want to have access to. It's a little bit well named, weird name, but whatever. So the Access tab is about food, access to equipment, and access to housing. So the Crotonians have, as you see here, the bars are differently sized. And the Crotonians have a kind of a bit of a lower requirement for home privacy, whereas, for example, the Cantors, mythological giant-like species, they cannot value their privacy enough. So, long story short, for some species it is more important, and for some species it is less important. But what all species value equally is having housing, as you see there. The boss aren't, well, these dudes, they actually care a little bit less about that. So, all in all, we don't need to value privacy with the Crotonians that much, but most species are happier when you give them more privacy. But by all means, I've tested that thoroughly, and it's like that. It is not really necessary to fulfill the need for privacy of your people as perfect as possible. The thing is, all these meters, they influence the happiness of your people, and it is quite easy to get the green bar totally full if you pay enough attention to that. This green bar here is basically the sum of all these things. But the larger your city grows, the more demanding your people will go. But all in all, I have really noticed that it is really not necessary to give everybody an apartment. I've tried that. Check out the Empire of Dondor if you want to know more about that. So here now you see we're slowly generating technology points. That's our dudes. They're working hard. And we're going to give this lab couple of people more. As you see there, I'm really going big here because tech is really, really important, and without tech we cannot build anything new. So let's wait for those new apartments because we have homelessness happening again. And now let's check on out what the tech does for us. So let's click that tab. So we see here how many points we have available, and we see how many points we have allocated and how many points frozen. Well, frozen points, more about that later. Penalty doesn't occur here. Allocated knowledge exceeds my total knowledge. That's, well, more about that later. First, I want to explain how the tech menu here works, because it is certainly something else than in other games. So our tech points unlock new technologies. So far, that's nothing new. So for example, we can invent a place to poop at for 75 tech points. Sadly, we only have the 25. The thing here is, though, quite simple. Once we have allocated 75 tech points to that thing, we have to maintain them. And technology points will deteriorate over the course of the time if we don't maintain them. Basically, that means you researchers will have to work forever here. Because if you unemploy them, you will lose your tech points, and if you lose your tech points, you will ultimately unlearn the technology. And we don't want that. This means Songs of SYX has a pretty cool tech system which is based around preservation of knowledge. If we don't work hard on that, we'll ultimately lose that knowledge. Also, it has quite a lot of layers of different technologies there. So many technologies here have several levels. We have here stuff like the speaker, which just unlocks that service. But you also have stuff like here at the farming tab, eatable crop optimization, that's 10 levels deep, and so on. There's a lot of techs that you can't just learn multiple times, like here 20 times on the veggie farm. And that's where you can spend way more tech into than you can possibly generate. At least that's been my experience. So to start with, I personally want to focus two things. First off, we want better services, because the better our services, the more people will be attracted to our city. But that's really important. We have to work on our food production at the same time, non-stop. Because the more people we pick up for our city, the more food we will have to generate, of course. And therefore, we cannot sit still when it comes down to food generation. So we're going to generate some new stuff here today. And that's going to be, let's see, agriculture, aquaculture, the fishery. So the fishery here, once you have it on your cursor, you see that there's a highlighting of the shoreline. That's because, well, that's where the fish's at. The brighter it is, the more fish is at. So the darker it goes, the less fish is at. That's pretty simple like that. So here, for example, would be the best area, but we're going to take what we get. So with the fishery, they need a part which has to be on land, but the rest can be on water. So we're now going to expand that only on the water tiles, not on the land tiles anymore. There is a maximum limit of tiles that can be associated to one workshop. They also have a maximum height and width. So all in all, I tend to just grab as many tiles as possible for my fisheries before I have to give up and build the next one. See, here's the border. Here we cannot claim more territory. Here, max dimension reached. I have expanded harder into the direction where there's more yield. This one was the worst direction to expand into. And now we have that. So each fishery needs a storage. Make that nice and large. Basically, this is where your workers will dump the fish into before it gets transported away. And of course, auxiliaries. And as we see here, this place also has an efficiency rating. So slap down auxiliaries until you have hit the 100% mark, and we're good to go. As we see here, this place has work for 14 people. It has a 73% effectiveness because of the fish that's living there, so that's pretty good. Fish deficits, by the way, don't really get depleted, so you can't just keep going there as long as you want to. All right, so we have now a steadily generating flow of technology. I want to wait with the introduction of new tech until the fishery is done, because reasons. I've learned that this game really rewards a good fork planning when it comes down to food stockpiling, because, you know, there is no reason not to have too much food. The worst case that happens is it's going bad. Tragic. It's better than when your citizens go bad, because they're starving. Alright, so we're waiting here for a moment, and as you see here, the happiness of our people ain't really bouncing back as quickly. That's because we're adding in more and more people, and immigration is something these people just hate. It takes a while until they forgive us for that, but that's the point. We have to immigrate. We have to allow immigration early on. It doesn't work otherwise. So, here's the Fisher place. We're going to reduce the amount of workers here yet again, because we just don't have that many yet. But it's pretty cool to have slots left and right where you can sink your workers into as soon as you have them. Alright, so technology, we finally have some points. The first few things right off the bat. Speaker is insanely cheap and it does a lot for your city. So I really like to start on out with that. The lavatory is the next best thing, and then goes the graveyard. So in that order, I usually go for my early game. We're just going to go for the speaker. You find them somewhere in civics. Let's see. Entertainment here. So the speaker is really simple. It employs one dude who's going to spread the news in town. End of the story. Your people, though, they really want that. So it's a very low cost and high reward thing, especially the first speakers you put up. Let's check it out. Preparing for it. And now there's the job. And we have somebody employed there. And done. So you can now watch on over in the services tab, like here. And then you notice new spots. Slowly it's filling. And whenever that's happening, you can always see your amount of willing immigrants increase. And that's interesting in so far, because our Pretonians actually still hate our guts because of all the immigrants. You see, that bar, if it would be full, they'd be okay with that topic. Seeing it empty means that they're really damn pissed about that. The good news, though, there's no negative, you know? We pick on up these three dudes, and it doesn't get emptier than empty. But what it does, though, it takes, I think, longer to bounce back. I'm not 100% sure about that. But all in all, our city is happy enough to not care about a couple of grumpy people that don't like our new dudes. So that was the easy part. Let's go on over and research the lavatory next. So there we go. The lavatory is again a new building. Find it here. And well, it's one building you will have to build a lot of in your cities. So here goes right away. Well, I want to have one that I can copy in the future. So we're going to put it down like that. So 14 on 14 should be really okay. There we go. And let's put in a door or a double door. And again, we have to stabilize the yellow area. Otherwise, our building costs will be insane. And you can also do a pillar in the middle. There's so many ways of getting the job done, you know. And now we're going to add in the latrines. Did like that format. There we go. And as usual, I'm trying to use the space inside of the building as much as possible. And then we need basins for washing purposes. As you see there, here, this rating, again, keep it on 100%, because that just makes your building more effective. Here we go. That's an okay setup. And this thing also needs furniture. we're getting used to that, or we should be getting used to that. And there we go. Let's construct that. Another thing I'm noticing is my stockpiles here are permanently full, and we don't have boxes for the fish. So let's assign boxes for the fish, and 23 of 24 crates are already assigned. So it's also time to think about a new warehouse. Well, the thing is, we should put, you always should really think about your warehouse as well, because they are your centers of logistical distribution. So I'm going to set up a new warehouse somewhere down here, because at the end of the day, this is going to be where we're going to do agriculture, or at least that's my plan. And this is going to be where we're ultimately going to do our mining tunnels. You see, there's some deposit, and there's some deposits. So that means having some logistical center here to distribute stuff from is a good thing. Because your warehouses are actually the areas where you will distribute stuff from all of the game. You store stuff there, you distribute stuff there. They're really, really important. And positioning them well is really paying off in the long run. So we're going to, tell you what, we're going to start on out with the street first. There we go. So we already can foresee where it's going to go for us. All right. Going to draw that road all over there for now. That's going to be all we require. And sitting on that corner, we're going to set on up our first bigger warehouse. Probably not that far away though, because that's a little bit too far away. Let's just set it up here. That's better. Yeah. Up a border here. And here I'm going to do a fairly large thing. 18 on 30. Yeah. So doors, as usual. And with warehouses, I do like to have access from all sides, as usual. Alright, so we have to stabilize that thing now. As you see here, rooms like these are just something else to get stable. I'm not particularly good at that, so I'm possibly not your best teacher for stabilizing buildings. I end up wasting lots of room, in my opinion, always. But, well. I don't think it is all too necessary to be perfect in that regard. I'm always looking for nice shapes, some sort of symmetry or something like that. But you can, by all means, go all crazy with the min-maxing. Has been pointed out in the previous episodes, and I'm standing to that. I'm not really the best at optimizing buildings in this game. But I'll leave that up to you. So we're putting in as many boxes in there as we can. Like I said, feel free to design your own super effective thing or something much fancier than mine. It's up to you. I like the building menu of this game because it's darn sandboxy, you know? You can really basically do whatever you want to with those storage furniture thingies, and I like that. There's really a lot of variety, and if you really just experiment around, as you notice there, there's a lot of wriggling room here. So here we have now a storage of 48,000. That's better. By all means, that's a lot better. So let's set that up and wait until all these jobs are done. So I gave them another job besides the lavatory because I wanted to make sure that they'll be busy when we're waiting for the remaining furniture, because we're lacking still 13 pieces of it. So yeah, fast forward that. And then, as you see here, we're generating more and more technology. There is a limit though, or 10 scientists will hit a limit at some point. As you see there, I think here you have an estimate. They estimate that they can produce and maintain 700 units of tech. That's a really important figure, so you know how far you can go with your spending. So in our scenario, for example, this figure means that we can't spend as much as we want to because we are far away from cap. It wouldn't hurt us to immediately unlock the graveyards, for example. But if we were already at, let's say, 690, we should be careful about spending our last few dimes. Because once you are negative in tech, you, when your allocated knowledge exceeds your total knowledge, so that means when you go lower in your production than the stuff you have in your tab here, technologies drastically become less efficient. So that's really bad. Avoid that by under all circumstances. It's really bad when it happens. All right, so that tiny warehouse here will have its uses in the future too. Because the thing is, sometimes you want a small warehouse, and sometimes you want a huge storage bunker where you can put stuff into. It's really always a little bit different. We're, for example, going to set up a huge warehouse here in the agricultural area too, because that's where we're just producing large amounts of grain and the like. And in the city core, you want a small warehouse, which is just distributing food to the eatery, clothing to your citizens, stuff like that, or some building materials to your janitors so they can keep your city intact. There's a lot of meaningful usage for the small elements and the huge elements. But when it comes down to workshops, I have made the experience, the only workshop which is worth kept being small is the hunter. And all the other workshops, in my personal experience, bigger was better. Because, yeah, well, the only reason to keep your workshops small is when you don't have the materials to build them up in the size that you want to. For example, when you're starting out with a game, a warehouse like this would have been a huge material sink, slowing down your start and eventually risking you being too slow and getting your food production in motion too slowly and people starving. I think you get the idea. So the gist of it, start out small, but by all means, once you feel like you can maintain large workshops, do it. Service buildings, though, I personally like to keep them like this size. This is a nice copy pasta size, you know? Whenever we need new services, we're going to use this template and paste it down somewhere else in the city. Service buildings don't need to be excessively huge, because it's in my experience, it's better to pluck down a couple of intermediate-sized ones instead of trying to cover a huge area of your city with one huge service building. You know, the people do like short ways, and if there's only one huge bathhouse in the town, which has enough room for all the citizens in your town, that ain't as interesting as several small bathhouses, which have same spacing, but the people can walk there fast. It makes them work more efficiently. Anyways, so a warehouse down here is slowly getting done. And we're waiting for that to be finished. This is going to be a major step forward, because once we have that, we can go into large-scale production and see what we're actually really producing. Because right now, I can only see that we got way more meat production than we can actually store, and we obviously have gathered way more building material than we were able to store. Except for trees, and they seem to be in a shortage. So there we go. And once the lavatory was up, we are already at a net positive of 10 people willing to join our city. Let's pick that up because workers are invaluable. So we can use a couple of these to make the fisheries go well. My personal stance is always, when I have new people and the food production isn't fully manned, man the food production fully first. That's my personal thing. So, we have exact numbers. So our 6 workers have produced 60 units of fruit in 1 year. That's the actual figure. That's okay. We're going to put up more farmers later there, once we have enough workers. That farm field here is way larger than the farmers can do, but it doesn't hurt them either. Maybe it hurts their feeling of accomplishment to see that so much of that acre isn't being used, but that's a different story. Jokes aside, it really doesn't matter. Your workshop doesn't care about being not fully manned. Okay, so you see that warehouse does take a while, and we have a new occurrence of homelessness, so let's check on out where that's happening. So this time it's happening at the fisheries. Well, I think that here we can easily still put up some more homes in that vicinity, and it will be still close enough. I sadly don't know the exact maximum distance between a job and a home, so sadly. There we go. So let's put up two more houses. That should do the trick. And you see there's a steady flow of Cretonians wanting to enter our city, even though they're still super pissed about the immigration. That's because the lavatory is making people damn happy. But imagine if you had to go to the bush every day since 3 years, and all of a sudden city government is putting up public toilets. Damn, I'd be happy too. So there's still one case of homelessness. Sometimes it balances out, sometimes it doesn't. Let's check on out. Officially, there's still one case of homelessness. The good thing about housing is, if you ever overbuild housing, it doesn't matter. Because the houses you don't use, they don't cost you anything. Here, we basically only designate living space to people. As long as there's not somebody living there, this is only designated space and nothing else. Oh yeah, and by the way, you can also boost the productivity of your farms by digging a canal. So you can just surround your farm a little bit by water. And the number behind the water table thingy here means how many pieces of water you can still drop before you're empty. Basically, whenever you remove water from somewhere, you gain 1 point of water table, and when you put down water somewhere, you lose it 1 point of water table. So here you go. Irrigation is now there. But we could have done that better. I derped it here a little bit. The water should flow here as well, so we're not at 100% irrigation. But putting some canal around your fields is really useful. And here, homelessness is gone. Wonderful. Alright, so let's get ourselves the next important technology, and that's the graveyard burial. So no more mass graves. Finally civilization. How about that? I'm down. So graveyards are really making your people happy, believe me. That's one major step forward in your city's economy, and well, I mean that because you're getting tons of new immigrants when you are done with them. So let's design a graveyard real quick. That's a little simple design. It's like a room but without walls. So we're going to set this up like that because I love symmetry. And here we're going to stop plopping down graves here, because of course we have to work on that respect number again. So I'm placing down some trees here. This place is asymmetric. Well, can't help it. So I'm just like that, you know. I hope you're not too bothered by that. So all in all, you just lap down flower beds and all manner of different things until the respect number is at 100% again. So the funny thing is that you can really place down things as you see fit. But what I want to emphasize here is the graveyard really needs a lot of decoration until it hits maximum respect. And another thing worth knowing about burial in this game The graves are occupied only for a limited amount of time. The body will deteriorate sooner or later, and then the grave will be free again, so you don't need to consider your graves as something permanently occupied. I find that a little bit unrealistic, but that's just as it is. So, once the graveyard is completed, our city will skyrocket, and we're going to have really lots of different new people joining on up here in the city. But I want to cover that next time. This episode we have learned about the power of technology and the new services we can unlock with that. And that's going to be enough for that. Just want to pinpoint here again, these 3 texts are, I think, where you get the most bang for your buck, and really kickstarts your immigration numbers. Just keep an eye out on your food production so you don't destroy yourself by accidentally inviting too many people to your city. So here I'm now daring to go auto-employ on the pasture and see what happens there. So thanks for watching, everybody. Next episode we're going to go on deeper into the development of the city. I think we're going to go on over setting on up this warehouse here. A little bit of trade economy and refining will happen. Lots of different things on my mind I hope you're going to enjoy. So feel free to drop me a comment if there are certain spots of the gameplay you want to see me, you want me to explain to you. Please feel free to request. I'm really happy when I hear your questions. If you have anything to add here, please feel free to, because I constantly feel like there's always something new to discover with that game. And of course, subscribe if you haven't done so already. I do daily content like this, and if you like that one, chances are you'd like the rest of the stuff I do as well. So in the description box, there is a link to the playlist, so if you want to start from episode 1, that's way to go. And support me. There are ways and means to do so in the description box. There's Patreon, PayPal, and Buy Me a Coffee, and if you check them out, I'd be really happy. I'm a free content creator. My content is free, stays free, and therefore I can really use some help. Big thanks to all the supporters out there. You're making the dream come true, and I appreciate it. So, have a wonderful day, and see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.